It's the Harris Football Podcast with your host, Christopher Harris.
Welcome in. My name is Chris, and that's the long version of the intro song. Apex Manor is the band. Under the Gun is the song. A whole lot of people asked me to play the long version this morning, so there you go. It's in honor of the fact we're back. The podcast is back to full time. Let's do this thing. Thank you so much for being here. I am pumped. This is awesome. Never exactly positive how I'm going to feel about the grind starting again. I got to tell you, I woke up this morning psyched. I'm really happy to be talking to you about very stupid stuff that doesn't really matter, but it does matter because meaning is where you make it, and it's a stupid show, but it's not such a stupid show. The very single best part about doing this show is all of you. I don't care where you live. I don't care what you do for a living or who you hang out with. I mean, I do care about those things insofar as they make you happy. I hope you're happy, but it does not affect how I feel about you. It is incredibly cool that I get to talk to you for a living. We have this crazy thing that I do not take for granted, all the way down to the Discord, which is so fun for the yacht clubbers, and everything else, the emails, the songs, the mixtapes, as it were. Holy moly. I don't take it for granted. Thank you. It's great to be back for another season. And it just so happens to be Almanac Day. And Jeff Lang reminds me to play this.
Welcome back. Your teams will be straightened out. Welcome back to that famed almanac that Chris talked about.
Chuck Saltmarsh, he's forever on the Mount Rushmore. Chuck, are you out there? We haven't heard you from Chuck in a while, but regardless, we love him. If you ordered the 2026 Harris Football Player Profile Almanac, if you pre-ordered it over the course of the spring or summer, you should have gotten an email to download the actual PDF. This morning, before I started recording, it's finally out of my hot little hands and into yours. And if you didn't pre-order the 2026 Harris Football Player Profile Almanac, I believe the good news is that you didn't get one for free. Please let me know if that's incorrect, but I believe I did it right this time. If you'll remember, last year I pushed the wrong button. I mean, it wasn't pushing the wrong button. I just set it up wrong and then spent all of August in a Swivit. This year, we are Swivit free, and if you just haven't gotten around to it and you still want to, the Almanac is waiting for you, harrisfootball.com. It's there if you want it. If you've gotten the document, then hopefully you've opened it and seen. We put a lot of work into the art. This year's theme is action figures. There are wonderful illustrations of action figures of some of your favorite current podcast characters. I think you'll truly have fun with it. Thank you so much for considering it. Again, you can find the Almanac at harrisfootball.com. And did I have to scramble and do a rewrite of some stuff this weekend? Well, if it's a year that has a number in it, you know the NFL is going to mess with me the weekend before an Almanac comes out. I talked on Friday about Ricky Pearsall maybe being in trouble for the 2026 season. That escalated quickly, as they say. We are now told that Ricky Pearsall is out for 2026. He needs knee surgery. He'll miss the entire season. I guess at least that's clarity, even if it's not exactly what we want to hear. And it's one more example that as much as it feels like we are vultures circling over the desert, the fact is that it's really the negative stuff in the daily camp news items that we have to pay attention to, the stuff that bright, sunshiny PR departments of NFL teams can't stop from leaking out. So when a beat reporter has been told all options are on the table, that table very often winds up being a surgical table. So remaining with the 49er receiving core, you've got Mike Evans. I had to bump him up a little bit more. Didn't love doing it. We don't want to judge this stuff by who else is there, because if they can't play, there's always someone else. I do maintain that Evans is a declining player. My guess is that however much I bump him up, it probably still won't match what the market bumps him up by the middle of this month. But I will admit, the fact is he's not useless. He can still make a contested catch. He can still score touchdowns. He's just not the Mike Evans of a few years ago. So he is up to number 29 on my standard receiver list and number 32 PPR. You can find at harrisfootball.com. And then I gave both Dejon Stribling and Deebo Samuel bumps too.
If you like coconut debonaise and dish it out lots of pain.
I do not really believe that the coconut debony has very much left in the tank either, probably less than Evans. And I think the Niners are absolutely not committed to anything as far as anyone goes, to be honest. I also think there's only really ever been one season where Deebo Samuel was good for fantasy. It was 4 years ago, but I have to admit it's more of a possibility with Pearsall out of the picture, and Samuel signed a contract as a direct result. But I'm not getting carried away with either one of those guys. Stribling is 51 standard and PPR, completely sight unseen. Samuel is 55. I can't help wondering whether someone like this guy might be a candidate to sign there.
I like the way you work it. Not a trash bag at all.
Got all the old guys, why not him? Only time will tell if that's a possibility. We have so much time to find out because the show is back. I'll be here Monday through Friday this week and all the way through most of December. Wednesdays are the Yacht Club shows with Andy Behrens, of course. And throughout fantasy draft season, we're also going to be back to posting on YouTube as well. I'll be doing a video for tomorrow morning about the top 10 running backs for 2026. And then the mock drafts on YouTube also begin this week. Jake Seeley from The Athletic is going to join me for a mock draft video that we'll release on Thursday. We're going to do weekly mock drafts on YouTube. So Harris Football YouTube page, you can subscribe there. Just a quick note, this is your reminder, this is officially the week when the NFL article count on the internet begins to balloon. Pretty early here in the proceedings, I always just want to have Robot Talia give you the most important piece of advice in August you could possibly receive.
Hashtag click discipline.
It is really incumbent upon all of us to practice some hashtag click discipline. Just don't make yourself crazy with the bad stuff. There is so much bad stuff, so much clickbait, so much useless, idle speculation, so many people who desperately want your attention, and so many headlines of fantasy articles that are just self-evidently crap. Every single article that says 5 must-draft running backs, throw it in the trash. You know this. There's no such thing, must-draft. It's very, very stupid. Depends on when you're picking. Depends on what else you've picked. Any player can be good value or bad value. Depends on where they go. And the idea that we must do anything in a draft is honestly borderline insulting. And I know, what's the harm? I'll just read it. It's fun. It's a fun time of year. I like that there's lots of columns for me to read. I'll give it a little look-see and I'll laugh at how silly the writer is being. And of course, listen, you're a grown-up. You can do that. I just think sometimes it's easy to get seduced by the bad reasons. So much NFL and fantasy analysis is based on bad reasoning, crutch arguments that are eternal. Who else is there? They wouldn't have gotten him if they weren't going to feature him. That offense is definitely going to be bad. They got him a second wide receiver so he won't get so much double coverage. They got him a second wide receiver. It's a disaster. All the targets are going to go to the other guy. That coach always only uses one running back. Draft capital. I mean, you know the list. On and on. Just stuff, logic that is bad. And my feeling is the more you expose yourself to it, it's the frog in boiling water. You start to kind of accept that it's legitimate. And yeah, it doesn't help you win. So click discipline, baby. We are all about click discipline in August. Okay, and lastly, Pound Foolish, the latest release from that publishing powerhouse, Cumulative Press. Cumulative, that's what I want to say. So on Friday's show, I mentioned that I wanted ideas about how to bribe the audience into pre-ordering Pound Foolish. I got a bunch. Thank you so much. I am sifting through them. A lot of really good ideas. Thank you. And we're going to do a lot of random drawings throughout August and into early September. I think maybe we'll do the first one maybe on Friday. We'll do one this week just to get it kicked off. And then we'll do multiples each week throughout August. So first of all, definitely, if you have ideas, email me about fun things the audience might like to win that is, doable if they pre-order Pound Foolish, in exchange if they send me a screen cap, as it were. And then second of all, you absolutely can pre-order right now. I've gotten something like 20 people who already pre-ordered and sent me a screen cap. You're entered. I put a link in the show notes to Barnes & Noble, which their website so far, I think, might be the only major retailer that has all three formats for pre-order. That would be paperback, ebook, and audiobook. Just to refresh what I said on Friday, all pre-orders that we get leading up to September 1st will all be counted toward the release. So it's like a rolling total, as long as they aren't bought on Amazon. Amazon doesn't do the rolling total thing. Eventually, Amazon will be fine to do it. If you do it other non-Amazon places for the pre-order, it should get counted toward various bestseller lists. And I just think it would be absolutely hilarious if Cumulative Press had a bestseller. We could screenshot that bad boy and laugh about it forever. Me, an idiot, publishes a book, never done it before, it winds up a quote-unquote bestseller. So that's my goal, and it's why I'm going to bribe you with drawings for fun stuff like Zoom calls and signed copies. Maybe we'll do like a poker game if you want. Maybe we'll have a grand prize winner who actually comes on the podcast for a couple minutes. Like I said, I don't know if that's the bribery that's going to work. Hit me up with your bribery ideas, heyharris@harrisfootball.com. And then, feel free. Go pre-order Pound Foolish at Barnes & Noble. There's a link in the show notes. It also just shows up if you search at Barnes & Noble. Take a screenshot. Send that also to heyharris@harrisfootball.com. And we'll see how much can we game the system and make people in the publishing world go, wait, what the hell is Cumulative Press?
Today's kickoff.
Okay, on today's show, we are going to do our training camp capstone show. For 8 episodes in July, we talked team by team about what we should and shouldn't pay attention to in these training camps that are now underway. And today we're going to boil it down and come up with our 5 most important training camp non-injury stories that might change our ranks. To help me do that, my good friend Dave Richard from CBS Fantasy will join. I do think you'll have fun, and I thank you again so much for listening today. I am thrilled. We're sponsored again by League Legacy. John from League Legacy is a listener. He's a yacht possum, and he has built a wonderful site that I love. Keeping your fantasy league's history is a pain, no matter where you host that league. It's annoying to look up who won the most, who lost the most, who has bragging rights head-to-head, and so much more. League Legacy is finally a tool that can retrieve the data from your Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper, CBS, Real-Time Sports, NFL.com, My Fantasy League, Flea Flicker, and more. And it builds a record book that is deep and so fun to look at. Draft stats, transaction stats, Both of the leagues that I'm the commissioner of are on League Legacy. It's something we really treasure. There's tons of new stuff for 2026, including pre-draft. You can get a draft scouting report newsletter for how each member of your league has typically drafted, and a post-draft newsletter giving one of those famous report cards. Check it out, leaguelegacy.io. You really will love it. What a great time of year. If this is something your league has looked for, John has built it. leaguelegacy.io. Give it a spin. leaguelegacy.io.
Today's guest.
And today's guest, it is the aforementioned Dave Richard from CBS Fantasy. You can find him all over social media. Just look up Dave Richard, CBS. He's there. He is a part, of course, of the crew that we love at CBS Fantasy, who are already back to 5x per week, as are we, 5 shows a week. You can watch them. Actually, you can listen to them. You can watch them on the CBS Sports Network. They're live on there very often. I believe their Draftathon starts tonight. And then also the FFT Open, the registration starts tonight. And the reason I'm telling you that particularly as Dave joins the show is because it's for St. Jude's, and it's a fantasy league that you can bid to be in with me under the auspices of CBS. And so, Dave, before we get to the everything else, let's talk about FFT Open.
It's really grown to this amazing charitable league where people can sign up, they can play against the expert of their choice. Certainly you would be one of them. And it's a $250 donation to St. Jude Children's Research. And you're in a league with the fantasy expert that you've long wanted to beat in fantasy because their advice is so crazy, and you say to yourself, I could do a better job than that guy. So now you get your chance to do that. Or you could be a fan and you could say, I'd love to just test myself against the greatest fantasy analysts in the world, and that's why they'll sign up for you. So the first guy with that weird voice will sign up against me, but people who want to test themselves, they'll sign up against you. And then, like, the coolest part about it, we're doing 36 leagues for the first time. Only one person can win each league. When you win your league, you're not done. You advance to the playoffs then, and you'll have your team against every other team that had a league. And it kind of runs like the Scott Fish Bowl does in the playoffs. So it's something like 36 teams make the playoffs. After 1 week, half are eliminated. After the next week, half are eliminated. Something like that. I don't even know the exact rule. But at the end, there's one crowned FFT Open champion. And you'll be remembered forever in fantasy football history annals for dominating the FFT Open. But really, it's all about raising money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And when we fill all of these 36 leagues with 36 fantasy experts, we'll have raised nearly $100,000 for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And so that's the best part of all. It's a great cause. It's a ton of fun. And everybody is guaranteed to play against the fantasy expert of their choice. You sign up for it. And like you said, Chris, it starts Monday night, 7 p.m. Here's the URL, tinyurl.com. Yeah, really? Tiny URL. Listen to that snicker by you.
I'm just saying, don't worry about it. I put it in the show notes. Don't even.
Okay. Then I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah,
but it's funny that it's that instead of go to cbssports.com/FFT Open, which that's what it should be, but it's not. And the reason why it's not is there's a really good reason for it. Let's start the show. Let's go. What do you want to talk about?
So FFT Open. I'm correct in saying it's first come, first serve. Right.
Yes.
You basically, it's not like a lottery or anything. It's just the first 11 people who want to be in a league with me and they want to donate $250.
Better be there at 7 p.m. on Monday night.
Right. So tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, that is. Just look in the show notes. And how many years has FFT Open been?
I believe this is our third year.
Yeah, maybe.
Does that sound right to you?
Years. Yeah. I think I've done all
the years.
Of
course you have. I dragged you into it every year.
Yeah, the draft is excellent. It's just great. So we would really recommend you do it. And Yeah, I mean, not everybody can afford that, and not everybody would want to. But if you're kind of looking for a way to be charitable, it's fun. All right, so yes,
call a friend and split the team with a friend.
Indeed. So this is as I've been saying, the capstone to the July shows that we've been doing, and you've been coming on to be the capstone person for years and years to do this episode with me. So you know the drill. We're going to count down our top 5 most significant stories to track through training camps in August that we think have a potential to change our ranks. We're doing our best to stay away from the pure injury stories because obviously the health of certain players, either being good or being bad, can certainly mess with our ranks. That's a little more obvious. Listen, if some of the storylines that we bring up here are somewhat injury related, whatever, it's fine. Really, it's an excuse just to talk our way through how you and I are thinking about ranks and how we might be making adjustments here over the next few weeks. I am going to ask you to count down 5 through 1 because obviously that's fake and doesn't make any sense, but it is a pointless countdown.
Okay. The problem is that I've got like 10. So I'm going to have to make some quick decisions here,
Quick
Chris.
decisions, 5 through 1.
You're making me anxious.
Pointless countdown. Let's play the little tag, pointless countdown. Okay. And so let's do it. What's your number 5 most significant training camp story headed into August here?
Number 5, Houston's offensive line keeps making mistakes and not only gets roughed up in practice, but in preseason games too.
And can I add that I think preseason games are even less consequential than the controlled scrimmages than
Agreed.
I don't even care about
Very
the preseason games because we don't know who's playing. But in those controlled scrimmages against other teams,
That's
beat
different.
reporters watch those, and it matters if they get overrun. So talk more about that.
There are a number of Texans players that are interesting. There's certainly going to be 2 that are drafted within the first, let's call it 65 picks of every draft. And then there's going to be 2 more that are going to be taken as late round flyers because people have hopes for upside. And then in Superflex leagues, CJ Stroud is going to get drafted in every league too. But this Texans offensive line has really been a problem ever since Stroud's second season. And I guess that would be the last 2 years. It hasn't quite bled into Nico Collins being bad for fantasy, but he's had 1 year where he's been not bad and 1 year where he's been pretty good. And in neither year has he consistently been like outrageous and worthy of being it's almost not worthy of being where we're drafting him. We're kind of drafting him as if he's been close to getting 20 PPR points per game year after year, and last year was the worst of his last 3 years. David Montgomery is another name. He's staring at a workload that is appealing to fantasy managers. Obviously, if he can't work behind this offensive line and they're not popping lanes for him, it could be a slog for him. And then the late round guys, Jaden Higgins, Tank Dell, they're fun. I don't think anybody's drafting them with the idea that they're going to become must-start players unless something happens again to Nico Collins. But to me, it all starts up front for every team. But for Houston especially, I don't know how to gauge that offensive line. And it's kind of a medium-sized red flag that's draped over the heads of Nico and Montgomery. And it kind of gives me pause when I'm reading reports already about how they're changing the lineups every day. And on a certain practice, they didn't look good. They didn't gel. And sometimes it works out, like Chicago last year. They worked it out. They found their 5 guys. They played together. They stayed healthy, and they did a great job for their offense. It's been 2 years in Houston. This is year 3. I don't know if it's going to be able to gel and become a strength for this team.
All right, so let's talk about where the rubber meets the road. Would you say that your current Texans ranks, your skill guy ranks, reflect the optimistic side of the Texans offensive line currently or the pessimistic side?
100% optimistic.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if that's a mistake.
Right. So what will it take? What will be the moment in which you go, I'm now adjusting Montgomery and Collins at least further down?
I think if I keep reading those beat reports about the offensive line struggling, and especially if I start hearing beat reports from joint practice, they have a joint practice against the Raiders, I believe. And if it's one thing if Max Crosby demolishes them. It's another thing if everybody not named Max Crosby on the Raiders starts demolishing them. And if the Raiders beat reporters start talking about how great their D-line looked in a joint practice against Houston, I think that might be the point. That might be the point where I look at Nico Collins and I've got him as a top 20 player. I could see myself moving him potentially out of the top 24 if that were to happen. Montgomery, a top 60 player, at least in full PPR, I could see moving him out of the top 60. And I'm not particularly optimistic on Tank Dell. I think it's fun that he's back, but I'm worried about the consistency ever returning, much less him being a focal point of Houston's offense when he's going to need CJ Stroud to have like 3 seconds to throw.
Right. I get it. It is. I mean, there's not a real answer for any of these. Like, what's the moment when you're going to make your change? You'll know it when you see it, that kind of thing. Right. But it's the whole point here is things you have your eye on, and I think that's a really interesting one. My number 5 in the pointless countdown, I will say Mekhi Lemon. I just think there's a path for him to earn the trust of all observers in all facets, in regular old drills and in padded practices for the Eagles, in controlled scrimmages. I don't really care about preseason games, but sure, we could say preseason games too. There's a chance for kind of him, and it's almost like an absence of a negative. And then there's a chance for there to be like somewhat intellectual roadblocks set up. He doesn't seem to be able to get open against XYZ. He struggled XY. Like, in July, I've talked about the forking paths that we have and a rookie receiver taken in the first round, meaning to, if not in actual playbook, but in hierarchy, to replace a very good player like A.J. Brown really matters. And so I would say to this point, probably to answer my own question, I would say my rank of, I don't look at ADP right now, but I'm ranking Mekhi Lemon as a top 40-ish receiver. And that probably to me represents the optimistic side. I like him as a prospect from what I know. But if we get those roadblocks in some way, I could see myself going lower.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from on that. In my rankings, he's 53rd among wide receivers. Right. So
Does he have any upward mobility for you?
Of course, but okay. I certainly need to see more optimistic reports from Eagles practice, and it's been up and down from what I can tell so far. And before training camp started, I was playing both sides of this fence because, like you, I loved Mekhi Lemon's film from USC. He was my favorite receiver in the draft class, and CBS let me write the draft profiles for the top guys on the skill positions in the draft. And so I wrote Lemon and they wanted a comp. And I went there. I said JSN because I really think that he's got that type of ability to win on inside out routes. And I loved how he had that like knowledge of where to go against zone coverage and ability to make plays after the catch and plays bigger than he is. All these things that we saw from JSN last year. But Philadelphia is not exactly a bastion of passing. In fact, I think they might even run a little bit more than they have in the past if everybody's healthy, including their front 5. It's a new offense coming in. We don't know how quickly Jalen's going to adapt to that new offense. And when Jalen does adapt to that offense, he's got Devontae Smith to throw to. He's got Dallas Goedert to throw to, particularly in the red zone. And it kind of leaves you wondering, well, where's the role for Mekhi Lemon? And if there's a role that develops every other week or every 3 weeks, it's going to be hard for fantasy managers to count on putting him in the lineup. So nice depth piece. Certainly could be somebody that gets the hang of the NFL game by mid-October and then hits the rookie wall by mid-December, and we get a couple of weeks out of him as a flex. But I don't think he's a top 36 wide receiver. I've seen some people very excited about that. And I'm telling you right now, I can name 40 other receivers that I'd rather have than him, who I think have that upside that you talked about to be starters for my fantasy team.
We're sponsored by Pre-Alcohol from Z-Biotics, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic designed to tackle rough mornings after drinking. This is science. You've heard me talk about it. This August is a great time to give it a risk-free trial because you know you have a fantasy draft coming up And you might have a few drinks with your friends, but you'd rather not feel crummy in the morning. I always make pre-alcohol from ZBiotics my first drink of the night. When we drink alcohol, it gets converted in the gut to a toxic byproduct, and it's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for feeling bad the next day. Drink pre-alcohol. It attacks this byproduct. Enjoy responsibly. I'll tell you, it works. I feel a lot better than I have any right to in the morning. And as I mentioned, try it. ZBiotics has a 100% happiness guarantee. If it doesn't work for you, they will refund you. And if it does, heck, party favors for the whole league for draft night. And get 15% off when you go to zbiotics.com/Harris and use the code Harris at checkout. I mean, if it doesn't work, they will refund you. So give it a shot. 15% off. zbiotics.com/Harris and use that code Harris. Okay, we're back with Dave. And Dave, what is your pointless countdown? What's your number 4 training camp story that you're going to be paying attention to?
We don't hear enough about TreVeyon Henderson getting first-team reps, but we keep hearing a lot about Ramondre Stevenson getting first-team reps. And the idea behind this is Henderson doesn't take the jump in his second year. Remember, last year we were excited about him in training camp, and the practice reports were great. And then what ended up happening, it was Ramondre Stevenson as the main back and TreVeyon as a 1B, and he had his moments. And certainly when Ramondre was out, TreVeyon was awesome. But I came into this offseason thinking that TreVeyon was going to be great, and I was drafting him well ahead of Ramondre. Could I get to the point where I'm drafting Ramondre ahead of TreVeyon? And I think if the reports continue to tilt towards Stevenson, I might be willing to do that.
I definitely understand where you're coming from. I'm if I'm tied into any team, I'm not really tied into any team, but sometimes little birdies tell me things about what's going on with the Patriots. On the show famously last year, when everybody was cutting Henderson, I was like, don't cut Henderson. They have plans for him. And then he started working. Can I get to the point where I'm drafting Stevenson ahead of Henderson? Maybe not, but sure. I would say I kind of never thought Stevenson would go away. And maybe it's just going to turn out that I was always lower on Henderson. I have him 21 among running backs. I have Stevenson 31 currently among running backs. Could I get them closer? Maybe, but I'm going to guess you started with Henderson higher than that.
Sure. And I still do have Henderson high, but just...
How high? What number?
27. And Ramondre's at 31. But when this offseason started, like I told you, Ramondre was top 20. Or no, I'm sorry, TreVeyon was top 20.
Oh, so you've already lowered Henderson.
Yes, I've already lowered Henderson. There have been a bunch of other running backs, one of whom we'll talk about today, who've jumped them.
Okay, cool. I get where you're coming from. I'll go Commanders backfield for my number 4. I made some possum bucks last year fading Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt when everybody decided that trading Brian Robinson in the bathtub on wheels meant that JCM was destined for superstardom. That turned out very much not to be true, and it was actually Chris Rodriguez who made some money in that Commanders backfield last year. He's gone. And now the dreaded Rachaad White. Man, if you could assemble a backfield consisting of all players that we've faded on this podcast, the Commanders are really trying to do it, because I don't love Rachaad White either, but he does what he does. And there's again, I'm trying to pick situations that have some level of possible clarification by the time we get through a few weeks. And so, do I have any of these Commanders high? I absolutely do not. None of them my top 30 running backs. I would guess if I'm going to wind up with any of them, it's White in a PPR. But I'm willing to listen to the stories. I'm willing to listen if everybody's like, yeah, no, anything you were thinking about Rachaad White is not going to happen. Anything you were thinking about like Katron Allen isn't going to happen. This is probably JCM's backfield. I'll probably make some adjustments. I can't imagine it will wind up in me higher than the market on him, but it's definitely something I'll be tracking.
I'd be shocked if this was JCM's backfield. I think they brought in Rachaad White for a reason. I think his strengths speak for themselves. It's high value touches for fantasy purposes. And if you don't hear great things about Bill between now and September, dude, Rachaad White's the guy. He's the 0 RB target. He's the late round running back who can maybe get you 12 PPR points on average. A couple weeks where he maybe gets you closer to 20, and some weeks where he'll get you closer to 9. But that's just who he is.
Yeah, Rachaad
White.
White.
Or 4. Yep.
I have White higher. I have White higher than JCM going into all this. So I'm right there with you. But, like JCM was a first-year player. Obviously, there's some details that he hadn't worked out. He obviously frustrated the previous offensive coaches enough to kind of get benched by the end of the season. And maybe he clears that up, and maybe I have to be receptive. So in some regards, I feel like fading rookies is so easily my instinct that I need to make sure that once the hype is over and once we're in the second year, I can kind of like remove those blinkers and try to see it for real and not just be like, the market's just going to be higher than me on rookies, so I can fade them. That's easy. And so I guess I'm acknowledging that I have to at least be receptive to taking off those JCM blinkers. I thought we were going to get through the segment in which nobody called him Bill, but damn it.
I'm sorry. I didn't get the memo.
No, I mean, it's fine. How about your number 3?
Coaches begin singling out Jadarian Price for his pass blocking and pass catching in practice.
It's my number 1. I'm right there with you. Yeah, that's a big one.
They had their first scrimmage in full pads. Was it yesterday or the day before? Recently. And he was the first guy up with the first team offense. And apparently he looked really good. And you talked about the forking road. There's a number of ways his season can go. But I've been saying on our show, the only way that you should be interested in drafting Jadarian Price is if we know for sure that he's the feature back for this team. And then you just have to hope that he continues to outplay the rest of the other guys, including Charbonnet, when Charbonnet comes back, whenever that is. And I worry about people overdrafting him because Charbonnet might need a couple of weeks to ramp up and be ready once he rehabs from the injury, whenever that is, like I said. But the role that he'll have doesn't exactly ask him to be explosive. That's not Charbonnet's game. He's physical, he's got good hands, and if he's taking on a role that involves high-value touches, that means Price isn't. And then it's a two-headed backfield where neither guy is really great. Maybe Charbonnet's better because of the goal line stuff. And people who draft Price maybe got something good out of him early, and then by the time we get to, I don't know, spitballing November, it's Charbonnet.
Yeah, there's 2 levels to this, and you did a good job talking about the Charbonnet level. I think at this point I'm pretty convinced we're not going to be worrying about Charbonnet in week 1. Like you said, it's going to be at some point during the season. This is a January torn ACL. It's not for sure, but I don't think we're going to see him week 1. So the stuff that we're probably paying most attention to, you said it exactly right. It's why it's my number 1. It's just like, is the story, oh, wow, the idea that we were ever thinking that Emmanuel Wilson was likely to be any kind of massive, significant drain on Jadarian Price now feels foolish in light of everything we've seen over these past several weeks. Versus, they're still mixing and matching, and we really don't have a lot of clarity on how this goes. Like, obviously, the Seahawks are under no obligation to tell us. And so we could get surprised no matter what conclusion we think we've come to by the end of August. But to my way of thinking about this stuff and ranking this stuff, I'm going to be susceptible. There are just some situations where I'm willing to kind of watch the daily reports and kind of just accept that the boots on the ground are smart guys who cover, and ladies who cover the beat, and like, I'm just going to let them be my eyeballs. And if that's what they say they're seeing, I'm going to hang in there right with them kind of either way, which is to say there could be value in Jadarian Price for me by the end of the month, or it could be a absolute stay away type market. And you're 100% right. That's before we ever get to the question of what happens with Charbonnet, which whatever you think it's going to be, I don't think we're going to get that answer by the end of August.
No.
Yeah. So where are you on Jadarian Price as of where we stand right now?
He is my RB25, and I could see
I'm 27. Yeah.
Right. So we're in the same range. So everything could be rainbows and thumbs up. And I mean, he could move into round 4 pretty easily. But that does feel rich, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's scary. And again, as someone who fades rookie, especially rookie running backs these days, it's going to really depend on what ADP does. I think you and I will probably be pretty close lockstep, because we're going to see the same reports. So we're either both going to be raising him or both going to be lowering him. And it's going to come down to, all right, once all the listeners are actually drafting and once ADP starts to mean something in mid-August, we're going to find out whether we're high or low. He's a boom or a bust, depending on where he is relative to our rank of him. If all the reports are good and people get super carried away and he's going RB19, I'm fading Jadarian Price. What a bum, And if the ADP is at 30, we're both going to be like, hey, pretty good value on Jadarian Price. My way of thinking in general is that, especially with rookies, people are really willing to believe the reports, and probably his ADP gets too rich for my blood, but yeah. We'll only know when we know, I guess. All right. So you nailed my number one, which is good. I feel less crazy because we came up independently with the same guy.
Keep in mind, these are very important rankings.
Oh, I mean,
Super
very.
important.
It's all important. So significant. Really, if you think about it, there's St. Jude's and then there's us, and which is doing a force for good in the world is really,
yes.
It's close. I'll do my number 3 though. I said the entire Raiders receiving core. Not to say I expect any of them to launch into the top 36. I don't. But with presumptively bad offenses, the offenses that everybody kind of decides beforehand, Dolphins, Jets, Raiders, whatever, Browns, I'm always more interested in sleepers from those teams because the market will decide they're all unusable. There's no chance. And I apologize to the listeners because I keep saying this, but I am saying it to different guests. We would have said that last year about the Colts in the first 3 quarters of the season. We would have said it about the Patriots last year. We're just wrong all the time about teams being hopeless and situations being untenable for any fantasy production. And so I'll take a chance here or there on some player that I think is an okay player in a situation that's everybody's decided is utter garbage. And so if you could get through Raider training camp and tell me that, I don't know who, Trey Turner, like someone has kind of become the no doubt alpha, he's not going to be in my top 40 receivers, but he might be somebody who's on my draft this guy in the 12th round list. Whereas if I just simply can't get any of that clarity, it'll be nobody.
And I would be surprised if I wouldn't be surprised if you got some clarity, one of Trey Tucker.
I said Turner. I meant Tucker. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you had baseball in the mind. Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, Jack Bash, like one of those guys will get weeded out. They have a 6th-round rookie. I think his name's Benson. I think that his name has started to pop up. Some guys are going to get weeded out, and you won't read about them as much anymore. And whoever's left, those will be the guys that you're looking at in the late rounds. I have Jalen Naylor ranked the highest. I don't think he's a particularly sizzling talent, but he's got a knack for getting open. He did in Minnesota, but that was as their number 3 guy. Pretty easy to get open when you're the number 3 guy in Minnesota. And I do know the track record of Clint Kubiak involves hyper-targeting one wide receiver. You can go back to Seattle last year, obviously, but New Orleans before that and Minnesota before that. Like we've seen it. I don't think he's sitting there in Henderson, Nevada in their facility going, I can't wait to get 8 targets a game to Jalen Naylor. I think he's saying that about Brock Bowers. And so everybody knows that we're drafting Brock Bowers. That's the obvious statement of the show. Whoever ends up being that guy, whether it's Tucker or Naylor, I think it's going to be one of those two. Yeah, late round pick, flex guy. I don't know if that's necessarily a ranking shifter. That's just somebody to keep in mind when you're in the double-digit rounds and you want a sleeper.
Again, it comes down to what you learn. So I currently have Tucker, the higher of those 3. I have them all ranked within 10 spots of each other. They're all basically they're all outside my top 60. So you're right. It's not like, wow, one of them's now wide receiver 37. Like, that's not what I'm talking about at all. But I could see a world. I've said this so many times already on the show. Boy, people are going to get so tired of many things I say. I'm now back to 5 a week. Oh, I'm sorry to all of you for this. But wide receivers insanely flat from 18 to 50. You could convince me on any of them. Like, I don't know. They all get 5.6 targets a game, and they all wind up with 4 catches for 53 yards, and then maybe they score a touchdown, and that's the difference between them being wide receiver 11 and wide receiver 29 and wide receiver 46. Like, I'm looking for someone to cut through that nonsense. I guess maybe the reason I gave Tucker the slight benefit of the doubt is because he's the fast guy. But then again, I haven't ever really seen him run routes.
Right.
Yeah. But I guess I brought it up by way of saying, could one of those guys go from outside the top 60 with enough positive buzz to number 45, and now he's someone I'm taking in the 13th round? There's a chance for that.
And then the other thing to think about is what happens when Bowers invariably takes a big hit and he limps off the field and he's gone for a couple of weeks, and you'd like to have that name in mind of the wide receiver who had that buzz, because that guy might now not get 5.6 targets per game, but maybe 7.6 targets per game.
We are sponsored by Vuori, my favorite clothing in the world. I went to brunch on Saturday with 3 friends here in LA, all yacht possums, and David asked me on the way out of the restaurant over in Venice, "Did you wear Vuori?" And I think he was trying to catch me out, but no problem. I had on a Ponto Performance tee. I had on the Meta shorts. I am currently wearing the Banks shorts at this very moment. I work out in Vuori just about every day. Incredible clothes for sports and fitness, but also lounging and comfort and brunch. The true California coastal lifestyle. The clothes are made with recycled material. These Banks shorts, this is like 4 or 5 recycled bottles. Good company. They've really grown since they've been sponsoring. If you go to VUORI.com/Harris, you'll get 20% off your first purchase and free shipping over $100. I know you'll love this stuff. Get the wife a pair of joggers. She'll love them too. They're great. This is an environmentally conscious company, none of which matters if the clothes aren't great, but the clothes are so great. 20% off your first purchase. Vuori.com/Harris. We are back with Dave, and we are getting close to our top names, although we already did my top name. We have more names to go, though, on our countdown of the training camp stories we're paying the most attention to. Dave, we're at your number 2.
Not only do we learn that the Vikings quarterback competition is a total sham, but that Kyler Murray has been dialed in all camp long. And that means that he's playing better than any quarterback that took the field for Minnesota last year. And what does that mean for Justin Jefferson? And I'm curious where you've got him ranked and Jordan Addison ranked. But also, does it mean that defenses are going to have to play back a lot? They played back a little bit when they had, Brosmer under center and J.J. McCarthy, but will they play back a lot? And what does that mean for the run game in Minnesota? And so I thought that situation could impact a bunch of spots in fantasy drafts, and that's why I included it in there. So Kyler Murray looks better than he ever has, and he's a serious quarterback. He's a serious quarterback again.
Again, well, he's looked better than he ever has. I hear you. I'll just say my Jefferson rank is like 7 standard, 6 PPR among receivers.
Okay. Sure.
Which feels like I don't think he has any upward mobility there, and probably he doesn't have any downward mobility for me. Where are you on Jefferson?
I'm exactly in the same spot in full PPR, 7. And
Okay.
I could see myself if I'm not a believer in Kyler Murray, Chris, but if I somehow become one, yeah, I think he could potentially get to 6. I don't think I can put him ahead of CD at 5.
I have him behind CD. I have
Me too.
Yeah, I have Nico Collins ahead of them in standard, but not PPR. And then Jordan Addison. I mean, I bear the bruises of last year's Jordan Addison. That was bad. He's outside my top 40. He's like 44 standard, 47 PPR. And then Juwan Jennings is like 56. And, the problem I have with hiking those guys up is that I'm trying to imagine the wheat from the chaff when it comes to Kyler Murray news. Calamari, as we call him around here. What does it look? There is just a natural fluffing that goes on with a new quarterback, with a hopeful quarterback. No beat reporter worth their salt who wants to keep their clicks and views and likes is going to suggest that they wish J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback again. So everyone's kind of rooting for Kyler to look good. And so, it's just, can you imagine a world where you can believe it, where you're hearing it enough that you go, hey, because I heard enough that Kyler Murray looked good in enough Cardinals camps for me to go, yeah, and then he came out and played like Kyler Murray. Mm-hmm. So I'm having a hard time believing it.
Me too. I don't know what that would look like. I don't know what it would look like. Maybe I don't know. I was about to say maybe Kyler just having a more serious tone, but I think he generally has a serious tone anyway, and I don't even really care what he has to say. Like if he changes his tone in press conferences, I don't think that's going to make me move him up. I think it's just going to have to take like stacking reports, glowing reports, one after the other, before I even really consider it. But what I'm fearing is the opposite, which is what we've kind of been getting up and down, and then Jefferson is the one moving the wrong way.
Okay. I mean, then, I think that's probably right. I think it's probably less about him being dialed in and more about him not being dialed in, because at least for Jefferson, because you're agreeing with me that where we're ranking Jefferson right now is kind of, we wish he could be the number 2. He should be number 1 in terms of talent, but like you just can't go there again after last year's disaster. And so the worry is that Murray is so inconsistent that you go, oh, I think I need to rank Jefferson like 12. Mm-hmm. And I can imagine, I guess, I don't know. I'll ask you. Can you imagine a world where the reports are so mixed on Murray that you significantly lower Jefferson?
Yeah, because the names after him, A.J. Brown, Nico Collins, Drake London, Malik Neighbors, I think everybody can see a clean season for those guys, because especially at the target volume that they get, and Jefferson gets that same type of target volume too. But I don't know, other than Nico. And London too, obviously, but he just gets so many targets. If the quarterback is bad, that obviously impacts the receiver. We just learned that lesson last year with Jefferson. I guess I could see it, but that would have to be in the other direction, Chris, where every other day it's Kyler Murray looks like he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right. Well, but I can sit here and speak for the storybook of history and say that's not uncommon when it comes to Kyler Murray.
I agree. Yeah.
I've been on the other side with Kyler Murray a long time, and assuming he's your savior that is something else. It is. It could happen. I think he's a fairly competent player. I think a lot of his faults get overstated, but where I've always come from when Murray himself was someone that was being boosted as a fantasy option, obviously, is because those were the years where people decided that if you were a running quarterback, nothing else mattered. You did not have to be able to do anything else in the job. We like to refer to those as the Anthony Richardson years. That was easy for me to go, they have to be okay at throwing. You got to be okay. And Kyler, unfortunately, I don't think it's height. I don't think it's like smarts. I just think has a hard time throwing with anticipation. And maybe Kevin O'Connell gets through to him, but I like our rephrasing. I'm going to put it in the show notes as our rephrasing, which is Kyler Murray can't get dialed in, because we've already ranked Jefferson kind of at his peak, but there's more down. We're saying kind of like more downward mobility, which I think I agree with that.
I
do. Yep. All right, my number 2, which is the last one I will mention. It's just another backfield. It is the Cardinals. I guess it's pretty self-evident. I'm interested once the draft stats and the public starts drafting how high Jeremiah Love winds up going. A lot of that will be kind of independent of reports. People have just been sold that any top 5 draft pick that's fun and you got to take them higher and yada, yada, yada. But it's also just about 4 bodies in camp. Do the Cardinals finally relent? Does someone get cut? Does someone get traded? it feels like even just in terms of who's on the roster, we could tell ourselves a story on August 27th that says, well, phew, it's down to Tyler Algier and Jeremiah Love and then a bunch of, third stringers. And this is just all a lot easier to understand as opposed to, oh my God, 4 guys are still there. I am very scared to draft all of them. And then, yes, also all the various usages and shufflings and what they look like in joint practice and all that stuff will factor in as well. It's just a big mess. And I assume, well, either some clarity is coming by the end of the month or no clarity is coming.
And I would lean toward no clarity.
Maybe.
Because why do they have to give clarity, and why should they I know they drafted Love 3rd overall. What's the upside of playing him a ton other than in games where he's got a hot hand? And for all we know, that could be every game. I mean, this is not out of the realm of possibility with a guy this talented, but it is the Arizona Cardinals facing the league's toughest schedule behind one of the league's least impressive offensive lines in a first-year offense with 3 capable pass catchers and a team. I don't know what their over/under win total is, but it's probably 4.5. Chris, I don't think the environment is good for Jeremiah Love to even have more than 5 games with 18 plus touches, because they don't have to. And why would they when they know this season is already kind of crappy?
Well, okay, I'll push back on, once again, I think you and I and everybody overstate their abilities to close their eyes and touch their temples and predict what a team is going to be. If we'd done this last year, again, you would have said the Patriots are going to suck. You would have said the Colts are going to suck. You would have said, we know the list. But I'm going to agree with your conclusion, even if one of your reasons I don't love. But I've seen Bijan Robinson on a pretty decent team have to split with Tyler Algier. I've seen Jahmyr Gibbs on a pretty decent team have to split with David Montgomery and other people. The larger point is that folks, I think, are going to be convinced that Arizona's bad. They're like dual pressures on me here, because on the one hand, folks are going to be like, Arizona's definitely bad. This is just a bad situation. I'm positive. Therefore, I don't want Jeremiah Love. That's what makes me want Jeremiah Love. But then the other pressure is he's a top 5 pick, and they got to give him a bunch of workload. Draft capital, they have to. And that's the thing I always fight against. That's the
Me too.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire syndrome. And so I'll be fascinated to see what the Cardinals actually transmit out there, and I'll be fascinated to see what ADP does with Jeremiah Love. I've seen articles saying Jeremiah Love is one of the running backs you must come out of a draft with. I've seen other ones saying, stay away from Jeremiah Love, unworkable situation. Like, he's going to be a tough guy to know what to do with because of these dueling pressures.
And whoever drafts him is going to be compelled to start him every week. And those pressures are going to be very interesting, right?
Yeah. The thing that I will, the thing that's going to be upward pressure on Love's ADP is the trade that sends James Conner to Green Bay, or the trade that sends Trey Benson to someplace where a running back gets hurt or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a moment where we're going to be testing Jeremiah Love's ADP. I think the larger point that I always try to communicate this time of year about rookie running backs is that when they get drafted high, I just saw it last year, saw Ashton Genty. Everybody just assumes Ashton Genty's an amazing prospect. And if you're not taking him in the first round, you're a fool, yada, yada, yada. And I sit there and go, they drafted Ashton Genty for his career, not for 2025. They drafted Jeremiah Love for his career, not 2026. So what you said is 100% right. Whether they're good or whether they're bad, the Cardinals they're not going to beat him like a rented mule. They bought the mule.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyway,
I think 100%.
Tell me where you are on Love among running backs.
He is and so this is where I'm going to look silly because he's not like 28th or whatever, but I've got him at 16. I think he can be a number 2 running back. Okay. Yep. So we're both talking trash about him, and yet still saying that he's a top 20 running back, which also kind of speaks to the running back position more than anything else.
It speaks to hope. It speaks to trusting the people who scout these guys, and it speaks to, for me anyway, trying to divorce as much as physically possible, even though I do suspect the Cardinals aren't going to be one of the best offenses, but allowing myself the possibility that it's not 100% that the Cardinal offense is utter garbage. And
right,
if that's the case, then, he doesn't get punished by his environment. And
I'm worried about the Cardinals' defense being utter garbage.
Sure. And that's why I'm not saying you do this, but that's why the folks who really only base their ranks and their advice on situation, they can turn themselves into pretzels to make it mean almost anything they want, because they can go, oh, sure, I think the Cardinals are going to stink, but they're going to be playing from behind. Go Jeremiah Love. You can almost use the environment to support whichever aspect of it you want. Either the Cardinals are going to stink, so Love is going to stink, or the Cardinals are going to stink, they're going to be playing from behind, Love is going to be amazing. Okay, man, you're not really telling me anything. Let's do your number 1.
Number 1 is the easiest one, and it would also be the most impactful one. Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson continue to hold in throughout the entire month of August.
What would it do to your ranks?
I couldn't take them. I've got them as my 101 and my 102.
Me too.
I cannot take them at 101 and 102 if they are not practicing at all throughout August. And I mean, countless times we've seen it where a player holds out, holds in, they want their money. Last minute, they get it right before the season starts, and the first 4 weeks of the year, they stink. They suffer an injury. That costs them more time. Then they got to come back from that, and it's like half the season is wiped out. And you're playing with fire by taking Gibbs or Robinson out of your round 1 consideration. But we've just seen it so many times. The most recent example, I think, is like McLaurin last year.
Yeah.
So I am hoping these guys get paid soon so that I don't even have to think about it, Chris. Because I want these guys on my fantasy team. They are worthy of these early picks.
That's a great one. I got to admit, I kind of didn't even think of it because I've just assumed they would pay them. But yeah, I guess, there comes that date where we're sitting with our little ranks tool and we're figuring out, okay, is today the day we make the switch? Are you telling me if we're on September 1st and those two guys are unsigned, Gibbs and Robinson go to RB 13?
I don't know if I could drag them that far.
Yeah.
Could they go to RB 7, 8, 9?
Maybe they should.
I don't know if I could drag them that far, but I feel a lot better about that than RB 13.
Maybe they should.
Suddenly, right, Jonathan Taylor becomes my RB1.
Me too. And maybe McCaffrey and PPR, but I would not argue with Taylor either. Yeah, because you have to put yourself in that scenario of having the 101 in a draft and being like, is this a problem that I want to borrow? And then you put yourself in the position of saying, okay, but I'm drafting on August 20th. Has it been enough time that it's a disaster and I need to make this is a huge can of worms, but it is a game of chicken for the player and the team, and also a game of chicken for us in our ranks.
Mm-hmm. August 20th isn't too far out, but August 27th might be.
And if you think about that, I 100% agree. I absolutely don't want to be hyper reactive, but if you think about it, that it's a week, it was 7 days. I really decided those 7 days were the crucial ones.
Well, hold on. When does the season start? Week 1 is week 1 NFL Sunday is the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's set the date at August 29th. That's the Saturday before August 30th. Look how smart I am. But August 29th would be a little bit more than 2 weeks before week 1. If they're not signed by then, I'm going to start panicking.
McLaurin was, though, wasn't he? He just missed camp, but he came in the last. He wasn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't
I'd have to double check and see. But that was just nightmare situation all the way around.
Yeah, this has a potential to be bad too. I'm with you. Hopefully by the end of it all, when I say it all, the end of this week, let's get them all signed.
Right.
But yeah, it is something we'll have to watch. It's a great one to be your number one. Dave, Richard, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. I know you and our brethren over at CBS Fantasy are extremely busy. As we mentioned, they're making shows 5 times a week. You can often see them on CBS Sports Network as well. The Draftathon, the Fantasy Draftathon, begins today, this evening, 7 p.m. Eastern. And crucially, as I mentioned, the FFT Open, if you'd like to make that donation to St. Jude's and play against me, also at 7 p.m. Eastern tonight. Just check out the URL that's in today's show notes, and you can play in a league with me, and it all goes to charity, and we will have some fun. Thank you again so much for doing it, Dave. It was great to catch up.
We need to get Jahmyr Gibbs paid. We need to get Bijan Robinson paid. We need to get Christopher Harris paid.
Thank you so much for listening. I mean, I think I'm going to be okay, but I appreciate the notion. Speaking of getting me paid, let's thank the sponsors because they did pay to be on the show to reach all of you. We had Viore. You've heard me talk a ton about them. Really recommend the clothing. We've had Z-Biotics a lot. You've heard me talk about them. And if you do drink alcohol, I'm telling you, I don't want to call it miracle, but I really do swear by it. I always do take it before I drink alcohol. And League Legacy, LeagueLegacy.io. This is a startup. Been around a couple years. You've heard me talk about it each August and sometimes in December. And John, spends his marketing dollars carefully because he's a startup, and I really recommend LeagueLegacy.io. I think your league would have a ton of fun with it. You can find information about today's sponsors in today's show notes, and all the current sponsors are at harrisfootball.com. Also, in the show notes, there's a link to the Almanac. There's a link to the Barnes & Noble page where you can get Pound Foolish, and there's a link to the charity league that we talked about with Dave off the top of his segment, where you can play with me and it benefits St. Jude's. And so lots of ways that you can spread it around, I suppose. And I appreciate that very much. That's going to do it. We're back. It's official. Monday through Friday. I'm going to be back with another podcast on Tuesday. My guest for that one is going to be the great Ross Tucker. We're going to talk about offensive line play that he's interested in for this upcoming year. That's a staple of August in the early part of the month, so that'll be a blast. I'm also going to go on Ross's show. I'm not sure when that's airing, but certainly this week. We're going to talk more general stuff about fantasy on his show as well. I'm also going to do top Almanac talent talk, grades, film grades and stuff from the Almanac that is sitting in my head that I'll share with you on Tuesday's show as well. Remember, if you want to give me some ideas about how to bribe the audience into pre-ordering Pound Foolish and making Cumulative Press be on the bestseller list, that would be so cool. You can do it, heyharris@harrisfootball.com. And remember, if you pre-order the book, please also take a screen cap and get bribed. Send me the screen cap. I will put you in the group to be bribed, to be put into drawings, and we'll pick winners out of that group. Until then, thanks again so much for listening. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it. I will talk to you tomorrow.
The Harris Football Podcast's opening theme is Under the Gun by Apex Manor. The closing theme is Say Yes by The Wellspring. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and never miss an episode.